right? I want you to think of skilled helping as more of a conversation rather than a process, if that makes sense, because sometimes we can become a little bit overly technical when we think about processes, can't we? For example, I remember being trained in counselling skills a decade and a half ago, and I think it was in an 18-month-long training program. I've actually trained in counselling through a few different organisations. One training organisation took 2 years to train me in this process, and another organisation took me through a different process through around about 18 months. Now, the information became presented in such a long and drawn-out way, all right, which in my mind, and I can only talk about myself here, I found this to be really unhelpful. Because the process was broken down and each component focused on so innately, I just ended up viewing the whole counselling process as being more complicated than it actually was. Rather than viewing counselling as simply as a set of conversational skills, people skills, I ended up viewing counselling as this really complicated therapeutic process, which it isn't, never needed to be. Some training organisations and gurus will make counselling out to be some sort of long, complicated therapeutic psychodynamic process, but that's because some organisations make a lot of money for doing so. So I guess an organisation can have one of two objectives: to make profits through selling online training programs, or through making impact through the people who are educated through the training programs. Let us now break down the skilled helper conversation into 3 different stages. Now, I appreciate you're not going to have any context for understanding these stages at the moment. Stage number 1, we want to take a little bit of time in a skilled helper based conversation to establish the backstory. Now, you're never going to have a problem hearing a person's backstory or the backstory of a problem. Why? Because people love talking about themselves. So in order to hear a person's backstory, guess what? Very few communication skills are required. All you've typically got to do is just sit back, open your ears and say, so, what problem can I help you with? Now, this sounds really practical, doesn't it? It sounds a little bit too simple. But if you think about it, so, what problem can I help you with? Well, that literally opens up and frames your entire helping relationship. Could you imagine if in your marriage or in your relationship with your kids or the people that you work with, or someone that you really struggle to connect with or argue with frequently. You imagine, rather than engaging in argument or debate or any of these things, you were just to simply say, so, what problem can I help you with? Who do you think would be willing to carry on arguing with you? That's right, no one. Why is it people argue and debate in life? People argue and debate for the purposes of being heard. So what happens if, rather than you prioritising being heard, you simply close your mouth, open your ears, then ask the question, so what problem can I help you with? Seems so simple, doesn't it? And then what happens when you ask that question is a person will give you context. A person will give you all the context of the problem they're trying to solve. They'll give you the backstory. They might even talk about their blind spots. They might talk about the resources that they have or that they don't have. In work, for example, they'll say, oh, I'm trying to solve this problem and I don't have enough resources. I don't have enough support from my manager, from my line manager. Or in marriage, the wife is going to be saying, I don't have the support from my husband that I want in supporting and raising the kids. And in this stage 1, when we're establishing what's going on within the other person, we're just going to have to listen to the rants, the complaints, the moans. It might be the husband saying, my wife doesn't cook me meals, or the wife's going to be saying, my husband doesn't listen to me, and we don't connect like what we used to do before the kids came along, and all that sort of thing. And we've got to get the problem out of the way. All right? So we want to acknowledge the problem, but we just don't want to focus on it. Does that make sense? All right, so we want to hear the story, because when we hear the story, what we're going to be able to do, or what we have the opportunity to do as skilled helpers, is look to identify any voids. We're looking for something that sparks our intrigue, right? We're looking to identify an area that this other person perhaps might not have yet taken responsibility for. Because if a person says something like, my husband makes me feel really anxious, or my boss at work, really makes me feel sad, or I don't get any fulfillment at work, or, my business is failing miserably and I just don't have any fulfillment in my business. So we're hearing what the person doesn't have. And if we keep the conversation focused on what the person doesn't have, guess what they're going to do? End up wallowing in this hole of self-pity, and I don't have what I want, and I don't feel happy about not having what I want. So all we just wait for then is a gap or a void in the conversation, where we then simply ask, okay, so what is it that we want instead? So what is it that we need? What do we need? What do we want? What do we need to get in place? And we automatically then enter into stage 2 of the conversation, where we're looking to identify possible solutions. Stage 1, what's going on? For some people, if you have much experience in helping people through coaching or leading or parenting or therapy or whatever, then you might be able to get through this stage 1 within 5 minutes. If you have less experience, it might take you an hour. All right, until you can just get clear on what the right question is to ask to lead the person to stage 2. And going from stage 1 to stage 2 is simply just a shift in perspective. Stage 1, where we're focused on the problem or the deficit or what we don't have that we want to have. And the second we can identify what we want instead, i.e. what we do want to have, we can enter into stage 2, possible solutions. So, okay, what options have we got open to us? There are no options. Well, if there had to be two options. I hate my job, this is a big problem. Okay, so let's look at the options. Stay in the job, or leave the job and go get another job, or go self-employed. That's now 3 options, but I can't do any of these things. Okay, so what can we do instead? What can we do? What I would say our main opportunity as skilled helpers is to help people manage their mindset. We listen out for words such as, I can't do this, I shouldn't do that, I couldn't possibly do that. And we're essentially hearing people talk about the things that they think they can't do. Now, bear in mind, all people have beliefs and worldviews and assumptions about what they're capable of in life. So some people just have these limitations. We're not necessarily here, and we're definitely not here to be therapists for people and get to the root of limiting beliefs and all that kind of stuff. That's not our responsibility. We don't even need to go there. All we need to establish is just a starting point. So if you can't do that, and you can't do that, and you can't do that, what can you do instead? And just reflect back what they're sharing with you until they take responsibility for the first step that they're willing to take or that they could take in resolving their own problem. All right? Your responsibility is not to solve anyone's problems. All right? That is not your role as a skilled helper. As a skilled helper, your role is to empower people in the process of taking responsibility for solving their own. Big difference from conventional therapy, isn't it? From guruism. There's no room for gurus in skilled helping, unfortunately. So if you want to be the next, TED talker, guru that, is hitting the world stage and that has 1 million likes on TikTok and all that kind of thing, then this methodology might not serve you. Why? Because it's practical and because it works. And this doesn't require you to be a guru with all the magical answers in life. It requires you to be person-orientated and solution-focused. There's no room for a magic wizard wand or stick in this. So our goal is to change agenda. We're looking to get a little bit of commitment in stage 2. And stage 2, it might be a conversation within itself, or it might happen in 5 minutes. It kind of depends on how desperate this other person is to change. Think about your own life. right? When was the last time that you had no problem making a major change in life? People have no problem changing automatically in life when the desire to change becomes greater than their desire to remain as they are. What I mean by that is when a person's circumstances become so dire or so unwanted, change becomes the agenda. It becomes a very practical next step. So commitment to change is an easy thing to do, isn't it? Make that commitment to change. So all we need to do in stage 2 of this conversation, and bear in mind, this can all happen literally in a 10-15 minute conversation. This doesn't happen over like 6 years or 6 months or 3 months here. You don't need pages and pages of notes to be taken or anything like that. It's just, okay, we've got to establish what's going on, what the problem is. Now we've got to figure out, okay, so what possible options have we got available to us here? So you've told me what you can't do. You've told me what you don't want to do. What do you want to do? What can you do? What can you do? If you had to do something, if your life was dependent on you doing something right now, what would it be? Oh, well, I guess I could start looking for new work. I guess I could read a book. I guess I could have a conversation with this person that I have a problem with. Right, okay. Shall we commit to that? And then figure out a plan for making this happen? Yes. Ta-da! And that's it. Well, sometimes not that simple, but in essence, that's kind of it. We enter into stage 3 of the skilled helping conversation. Okay, so what possible strategies could we take here? What are the best next steps? What's the game plan? It's not like you have to go and document all this and document all that and document all this. Stage 1, we're hearing the backstory. You're looking for blind spots. You're looking to identify resources that they think they have, resources that they perhaps think they don't have, resources they possibly need, resources that they could possibly do with losing. Here, bear in mind, it's their responsibility to take ownership of the solution that they want to commit to. It's not your role to determine that. Your agenda has got to be their agenda, right? And this is an important point as well. I've come across many over the years, especially who would call themselves coaches, especially life coaches. Life coaches have an agenda to change people. And if you go online and look at the majority of life coaching websites, people who call themselves life coaches or therapists, they will say things like, and I'm talking very general here, many market themselves, I will help you to create transformation in your life. I'm a transformation coach and I will help you and give you the transformations that you need through my guruism and through my mysticism and all that kind of nonsense and all that guff. And it's because some people have an agenda to heal people or be the guru. But if your agenda is their agenda, or let's reframe that so that it's really accurate, their agenda becomes your agenda, you now position yourself with a really healthy focus and a really healthy attitude that's realistically going to be able to help them. If their agenda becomes your agenda, then your agenda can go whistle. Your agenda can go and take a nosedive. So you being the guru and you being the fixer of problems and you being the person that others can become completely dependent on that will tick your significance box as a human being, that can go away. We can lose the ego and stuff now. I'm not saying you have ego, but I'm saying that many people who enter this industry do. It's a very, very ego-laden industry, this professional helping place. And I want to do something about this. I want to make things more congruent or play a part in making things more congruent. So here now, next steps, possible strategies. If you had to do something, what would you do? Well, I could go have a conversation. Okay, so what are the best next steps? Send a text message, go do some online research, go have a conversation with someone, go and read a book, go and enroll in the course, or whatever. But before all things, we need one question kind of at the forefront and at the back of our mind, underpinning every question that we ask, every statement that we make, every word that leaves our mouth. What must I do next to start seeing change happen? Because I can't create change, I can't make change happen, but what must I do next? What must I say next to start seeing change happen?